In 2019, Ellie Gould is a 19-year-old A-level student at Harding Newish Academy in Chippenham, Wiltshire, UK. She's stunning and bubbly, very popular, lighting up any room with her broad, contagious white smile. She lives in the tiny village and close-knit community of Calne, with Mum Carol, Dad Matthew and 2 siblings. She is an avid horse rider with dreams of joining the mounted branch of the police force. In Year 12, Sixth Form, she starts a relationship with Tom Griffiths, who she and her friends have known since Year 7. Tom is a very talented sportsman and plays for the local Chippenham rugby team. He could, however, become quite suffocating, and after only 3 months of dating, on the 2nd of May, Ellie ends the relationship, instead wanting to concentrate on her studies and hanging out with her friends. Ellie will message her friends later that night that Tom took it pretty bad. The next day, Friday the 3rd, Ellie will stay at home to revise and has arranged with friend Ellie Welling to be picked up around midday for a history lesson they are both expected to attend. Ellie won't make this class and will never be seen again by her friends. That morning, Tom is dropped off at school by his mum, but soon after leaves, getting the bus home. Unexpectedly, his mum will come home earlier than usual, so Tom hides in the wardrobe until she leaves again. This is when Tom grabs the keys to the family silver Ford Fiesta and heads to Ellie's house, knowing she is home alone. At approximately 3 p.m. that day, Ellie's dad, Matt, comes home, confronted by what appears to be a terrible accident, finding Ellie face down, holding a knife which is still embedded in her neck, in a pool of blood. He calls an ambulance, then calls Carol, absolutely frantic, blurting the words that Ellie has been in an accident in the house. Carol rushes home to find police cars abandoned in her street. She finds Matt in tears on the driveway, who tells her Ellie has died. Police know almost immediately this is not an accident, as paramedics tell them of multiple stab wounds to the neck. After speaking to Carol, Matt and Ellie's friends to piece together a timeline, police find that Tom had group messaged their circle of friends that day, telling them he was stressed and self-harming, that he and Ellie were going to take a break. A neighbour also seen a tall young male call at the house at around 10:45 that morning. Police find Griffiths still in the area, fitting the description the neighbour gave. Now their chief suspect, he is arrested and brought in for questioning. The post-mortem will find Ellie has been strangled, then stabbed in the neck 13 times. They believe she was already unconscious when stabbed, as there are no defensive wounds to her hands and arms. Griffiths will deny any acknowledgement of what happened to Ellie and instead excuses the marks on his face and scratches to his neck as self-inflicted through stress at home and the ending of his relationship with Ellie. Police don't buy it and proceed to find a wealth of evidence on Griffiths' phone. Using Griffiths' digital footprint, they can see he left the family Wi-Fi at 10:50 a.m, arriving at Ellie's house at 10:53 a.m. He won't reconnect to his own Wi-Fi again until 11:51. He's already been at Ellie's house for almost an hour. Police believe this is when the attack took place and when he attempted to clean and stage the scene. He will clean his shoes in the kitchen sink and put the knife in Ellie's right hand, inserting the blade back into an existing wound. He will then use Ellie's fingerprint to access her phone and cancel Ellie Welling from coming to pick her up for their history class. Police worked tirelessly on this case and find CCTV of Griffiths catching the bus home from school after his mother had dropped him off. Then find, from a bus internal camera, Griffiths in the silver Ford Fiesta heading to Ellie's house. Phone data also tells them that after the attack, he's back home but completely disappears from the Wi-Fi for 18 minutes. Another neighbour will say she saw Griffiths coming out of the woods and he asked her if she would give him a lift to school, which she did. He then goes to the school nurse to say he's feeling unwell and his mother is called to come and pick him up, obviously in an attempt to create an alibi. Police find a black bin liner in the woods exactly 9 minutes walk away from Griffiths' house, which explains the 18 minutes lost, as it would take another 9 to walk back. The black bin liner contains blood-stained tea towels, napkins and hand towels. Forensics will find it's Ellie's blood, and it is also found on the shoes he was wearing. 3 days after Ellie's death, Thomas Griffiths is charged with Ellie Gould's murder. On the 29th of May, 4 weeks after Ellie's death, she is finally put to rest and her friends and family can say goodbye. Griffiths will admit murdering Ellie, but will say he was there on good terms, actually studying together, but they began to argue about family and he lost control, strangling her, but does not remember the knife or stabbing her. That he was suffering from amnesia and he came around to see Ellie stabbed on the floor. Relationship psychologist Angela Mutanda says, "Blind rage can lead you to forget. The logical brain gets pushed out of the way while the adrenaline has to have a way out, which is usually in violence. However, the fact that after he put her hand on the knife, he used her fingerprint to send messages is something quite different. It's not amnesia. This is cold and calculated planning." At a plea hearing on August 29, 2019, he pleads guilty, meaning the Gould family won't have to go through a trial. He's remanded in custody. As Griffiths was 17 and classed as a child at the time of the offence, with no other previous convictions, this is taken into account on sentencing. On the 8th of November, Thomas Griffiths is sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 12.5 years to be served before the chance of parole. He is to spend the last quarter of this in an open prison. Detective Superintendent Jim Taylor says, "As a police officer, I felt the sentence was appropriate and within the sentencing guidelines, but as a father, I was devastated for the family." Ellie's mum Carol said,
"When he comes up for parole, they will look back at the crime, and he went from 0 to 100 in terms of violence for no reason, which makes him such a dangerous individual."